Section 2. Episode 8. Princess Amian and the Plot. At the same time, while that was happening, it was Anna Yadzuit at the table of situations in Castle Lockhart of Sirad Sector 31 during Audible, the third month of summer that next year, 1.369. There was the planning of waging war against Nilarika Sector 8. The ruler at the time was King Terence Leif, born in the upper regions and despised lower region sectorians. He had respect for the bloodiness of Valorians and Valerians above all others. Though he himself was a sectorian, he would claim to be of the bloodlines of Valerian. He always wore a tunic which covered his face, so those not a part of his council would think his claim to be true. He wanted to also kill the true Valerian descendant, which was the Principality. The Principality was on a rebellious rise to power, and he knew it. So King Terence Leif would try to beat the Principality to the attacks on other lands. He called for his family of knights in Castle Lockhart. While at the king's discussion table, the subject of who would avail his army while the lower regions of the United Sectors came up. King Terence Leif sat at the head of the table with his delance of knights and brother Mikalop Leif, who was his closest wisdomer. As they ate, the king posed a question that was more like a request.
So, what are we going to do about the invasion? For I will need an ally in the lower quadrants near our target for reinforcement, said the king, stroking his goatee.
I suggest that we choose Fuchs Sector 24. It is the closest refuge to most rebels searching for a safe haven from their persecutors, suggested Sir Frankie. No, that would go against everything that we're trying to accomplish at hand, Sir Ronald interjected, denying Sir Frankie's suggestion. Okay, then who, Sir Ronald? Tell us who can we trust when over there, said Sir Frankie. Well, as you already know, sire, I recommend the Valorian Princess Amian of Loquacia Sector 15. Nothing about their sectors being of one has ever been discussed by either kingdom. They are in lower quadrants adjacent to one another as well, and if we push hard enough, war just may break out between the two, said Sir Ronald.
That's a fine description of possibility, but what insurance is there of that?
Asked the king. There's vengeance in their hearts over losing to Torella Sector 58 in battle. Lord David, who is Torella Sector 58's war commander and wisdomer, enlisted the availance of Nilarika Sector 8, given by King Lambersod to crush Loquacia Sector 15's forces, replied Sir Ronald, taking a drink from his goblet. To assist my fellow gallant knight here in his explanation, said Sir Cecil, the matter is simply getting into the young Valorian princess's head, and I believe I know who can do that task very well.
Well, that should work easily, said the king in a sarcastic way. What you say is so, Sir Ronald, but how do we know their standings on this? Have you any intel? Asked the knightess Sharon.
Of course, I'm waiting for the confirmation to come at any minute through that door, replied Sir Ronald.
You give us an answer without supporting factors. How will that help us, you Janakit?
Asked Cynthia the huntress. Watch your mouth, huntress, or the next prey will be you, responded Sir Ronald, standing up to afford her a challenge.
Sit down, you two, ordered the king. Don't you ever get tired of bickering? We have an important situation on our hands. There is no room for division. We must overtake Sector 8 Nilarika before the union of Lumos Sector 66 with the king. If that union takes place by marriage, then Voice Sector 131 with its military will be at its aid as well.
If the Emperor of Voice Sector 131 is behind them, how then will we overtake Nilarica Sector 8? Asked Sir Bobby, drunk as can be.
I will send my forces in tonight.
Then he passed out. Poor slob of a man you are, Sir Bobby. Sir Edward watched him in his usual disposition sleep from drinking endlessly.
So, how do we go about doing things?
Asked the king. I say we make moves before that vile rebel Valerian the Principality. Last year he would have raided, but his right-hand man's ex-wife came into the midst of their camp, raiding it after some night lords had already attacked, which postponed his plans of attack on Nilarica Sector 8, reported Sir Cecil. Right you would be, my brother, if she was even there, said Sir Harold as the Situation Room doors opened. What do you mean, Sir Harold? My spy just came back and reassured me that she was not married and without any strife, said Sir Ronald as he rose quickly from his seat.
Please explain, Sir Harold, said the king, offering him a seat at the table. Tell me what I don't know about her, for my knowledge of her is vague indeed.
Well, I have some good intel and some bad intel, said Sir Harold, coming in through the door with Baroness Darlene and Duchess Phyllis. Everyone welcomed them in with acclaim. So, what's the news? Asked Mikolop Leif. First of all, there are truly only 3 remaining royalty of the bloodline from Chianity Valor. There is Princess Brittany VIII, 14, Princess Spica, 17, and Princess Amian, 19, of which is the leader of Loquacia Sector 15. As well known to many, she is the oldest of her father's 3 girls. Out of those 3, Princess Amian has the most influence and the most to gain, for I am sure if she joins our efforts, the other 2 princesses would without a doubt follow her lead. His other 2 princesses are Princess Spica from Jessica Sector 3 and Princess Brittany VIII, who lost her kingdom to one of the other Valorian princesses in Valoria Sector 121. From the suffering of that loss of political power, she ran away and became a crown protector. But because Princess Amian has sworn vengeance for her sister, Valorian wars have divided their bloods within. Her father was the tyrant of villains, Philip Sand, the Valorian prince. He was notoriously known as the Sandman for his way of killing in the Jesse deserts. He died in battle against the Sisterhood, who took him down in a sector of the lower quadrants, Zonia Ire, so she holds that lower region responsible for his death in a semi-way, responded Sir Harold.
What do you mean, semi? Either she does or she doesn't, said the king.
I have had the liberty of seeing her up close and being in her presence. She is more with a void in her soul than the beauty of herself, for it is seen in her heartfelt words when she speaks of the affirmation of her father and the quadrant of sectors that caused his demise, replied Sir Harold. What does that have to do with the unitized sectors region? Asked Sir Frankie. Zonia Aya is not part of that lower region. Well, Sir Frankie, it is a fact that Nilarica Sector 8 gave some help in reinforcements to old Sector 60, and the princess is aware of that, my brother. Also, furthermore, to give you a rundown of her personal history, this is what I have come across as for knowledge, so take heed, gentlemen. She is known as the element of beauty. A hero becomes of someone who helps her escape from her enemy's fortress. That happened once while I was there. The sectarian that helped her escape continued the journey back to the Empire of Loquacia Sector 15. He was madly in love with her, and that drove him crazy with jealousy. Men have fallen at her every footstep of life and love. She has never had a long-lasting relationship as far as love is concerned. That was the curse set upon her ancestor, the great Kiandra, who was the mistress of a wizard who got caught in the act of sexual immortality. They were caught by the wizard's wife, who used to be a good witch until that night. Though the wizard tried to protect Kiandra with his powers, the enormous rage of the witch's craze pushed her powers beyond what he could handle. His body was crushed by pure air as if he was at the bottom of the sea. With the element of water filling up his lungs, he was drowning from within. Water could be seen spewing out of his mouth as he was being brought to nothing by water. He became nothing, and her rage left. After that she cursed the bloodline of Kiandra Valor, that any descendant she has which is blessed to behold the element of beauty shall live her days in the pain and misery with an incurable wounded heart. For the curse put upon her would cause men to fall in love, willing to die for her, making it be that she would never be able to have a lasting love. Every affair she has will be ephemeral, causing her to feel the pain of being alone after giving her heart to the one she loves. For when she falls in love with a man, he shall lose his life before her eyes, leaving her with the bearing of its grief, reported Sir Harold. Now that curse continues through Princess Amian, said Sir Harold.
Well, I have seen this woman before. It was from a distance, but a curse was far from her, if you know what I mean, fellows, said Sir Edward.
Yeah, that's true. Also my thoughts as well. Only there is more to her than seen by the eye, my brother of lust, replied Sir Frankie, as everyone laughed. He then gestured for Sir Harold to continue. Her captivating voice complemented her pearl-brown eyes of desire and pleasure, which makes you feel you could accomplish anything. That makes most men do for her what they wouldn't even do for their own wives. Many have fallen in war for her bidding. The curse can be broken by a valiant man, but who would be a fool and dare try. She stays unprotected, and that's why she has been kidnapped again and again. It's like she has no regard, not even for her own life. Who would be able to love her long enough to free her from this curse? Legend has it that there is such a man of a sectorian bloodline, but no one knows him, explained Sir Harold, as he threw his hands in the air, then pounded on the table in frustration. Please don't stop, Sir Harold. Details are essential to what we are planning here. What else do you know about her? Said Sir Bobby, looking as if he was drunk, which seemed to be his way. Come on now, out with it, you.
Sir Bobby, settle down. I am sure there's more he has to say. I don't need you to add it again for the upteenth time.
Everyone giggled to themselves as Sir Edward urged his younger brother to continue.
Go ahead, Harold.
I was able to dig up other useful information to our benefit and cause. Because of her enchanting, lovely, outstanding, and most pleasing looks, sectorians come from far and wide to wait for the day of competition to be forever hers. It was something unseen anywhere else in the world. What I'm about to say next is up to you of how important it really can be to us. Well, she has softened skin of the flesh of love. Her hair always smells like evancia berries from the affection of nature, grown on the fruiteria tree, which is the tallest tree in the lower quadrants of a mandaria. Berry melon trees are the tallest trees in the land. Men climb to the top, putting their lives on the line to get the fruit thereof, just so she may bathe in it by them, if they survive. For the fruit must be handled gently. It cannot be thrown or dropped down because of the height of the fall. It would be ruined. This happened every day while we were there. Men risk themselves to retrieve those berries just so she may wash the hairs of her body. She doesn't keep a supply of them. She requires them fresh each time before she bathes herself. Many have died on their way down, but if the man which achieves the task survives, she allows him the pleasure of washing every part of her body himself. In my opinion, this is done to further entice a man to die for her. Her sexually appealing figure makes her any man's trophy to possess. A king would rather her as his most prized valuable possession than a kingdom. When she became the official leader of Loquacia Sector 15, she was young, and from age 14 until now she has ruled her kingdom with and without a man by her side. Her defense is her beauty. That's why she still lives. Men become crazy and dumbfounded, forgetting what their prime objective is. Those who even rescue her fall into her clutches without notice, and she loves every moment of it, if you ask me. Princess Amian is the core of love walking among the world. So, whatever your plans are, remember not to get spellbound by what you see or feel. Also, by the curse of blessing she beholds, her voice is magnetic unlike any other. It puts you in a hypnotic, dreamlike daze by the sound of her pitches when holding her voice in singing or crooning. So please be cautious of her singing voice. It is a serenading death, compliments of the witch which cursed her bloodline. Though her voice may sound as beautiful and blessed as life in its most precious day, it's really bringing all motion around her to a halt. This is how she escapes. When you black out and come to, she's gone. That's my report on the situation. Now, what say you, my brothers? Said Sir Harold as he stood up. I say we rescue her, make an alliance, then betray her for our purpose, said Sir Frankie, showing his excitement, joining Sir Harold, standing now as well. Oh, and one more thing to remember. Philip Sand the Valorian had possession of the crown of Faith Shield of Faith. Where is it now? I do not know. No matter though of that. Let's prevail with our primary agenda, said Sir Harold, as they all walked out the door.
That's good, amusing news, but how in the world does that help us in our conquest?
Asked Sir Edward, putting his elbow on the table to prop his head up with his hand. It's simple, Sir Emptiness of Thought. Phyllis, who was also a commander of the elite troops of specialty enforcement in Serid Sector 31, interjected. She has a way to spellbind an entire Noetian if she had the right influence in her ear. But that would have to be the one who would not be manipulated by her beauty. A man that she would fall in love with and not love her, but love the meaning of his mission. Knowing beneath the surface always that his life depends on it. I believe I see where you are going with this, replied Sir Ronald. If one influences her without being bespelled, those that follow her will indeed follow the one who influences her. So therefore we must choose someone to take upon this position, knowing the importance of this mission. I say that we move quickly as well, for on our way leaving Loquacia Sector 15, there were men sent in to kidnap her right before us. Many of her kind were wounded, and some even killed for her life. She finally was handed over to the kidnappers, and they left, for she instructed her sectisans not to fight to save her, said Baroness Darlene, pulling out a map of the sector she had been taken off to. For the Baroness was the strategist of the area attacking a fortress and going into the upper quadrants of unitive Noetians. She knew it would not be easy. Especially in Jasminishu Sector 62. That is Velorian territory and the capital of unitive Noetians, ran by the sovereigness Shanika Amva. We have to rescue her, but our forces are not as equipped as the sworn enemy."
"And who would that be, Baroness?" asked Sir Bobby.
"I thought you were asleep, Lush," Sharon said in a wisecrack.
"I do some of my best thinking as a lush. I have a gradual absorption when often unconscious to process what I hear," Sir Bobby responded.
"Oh yeah, I tend to forget your self-taught ability," said Sharon. "Anyway, that would be Anoivad, the Empress of Daviona, Sector 136. That is the capital of the Upper Quadrants, Brent Valar. We basically sit between the two, and by chance, Daviona Sector 136 just happens to be the full bloodline to the kidnapped princess. The way I see it, we can use it all to obtain the passion of our main goal, to destroy Nylorica Sector 8, explained Baroness Darlene.
"Well, first things first," said the king. "Since my wife's disappearance, we don't have the aid of her allies anymore, so we must enlist the help of Sector 136 in this. I have connections in Carolyn Sector 5. My sister on my mother's side is a concubine to the king. Her bastard son is the king's second child, Daniel. He treats him less than his firstborn from his queen, which is also a boy, Prince Dewan. I treat them both equal, just as my sister does, but at times I believe that there's a torment and unresolved pain in Daniel's heart. I see darkness when I look in his eyes sometimes. But I say we can use that as fuel to burn the fire in Empress Anoivad's heart of hatred for the Valarians," said Mikalop. "Brother, you speak well, but what is the guaranteeing connection? For simple words with a deep meaning brings the trust of one's actions, but a perplex application may be semantic to serve differently what we are aiming for," replied the king. "There are seen words with unseen actions. Which do you consider carries more weight, the word spoken or the meaning of its actions? We have gone this long, and by the conspiracy of the universe, things have come to pass in our favor. Now have we run out of the mind ammunition to see the plans through. No crown has ever been given to the weak-minded. This is war, and to obtain a crown you must be of war by any means necessary," said Mikalop. "So, as you have said, Wisdomer, so let it be done. Make your connections to administer the hidden influence, and just remember, knowledge set in front of one can easily be seen, but though it is day, there are those that still remain blinded with darkness," King Terence Leif said in his final words to adjourn the meeting. "Bring her back safe."
"We leave for Jasminishu Sector 62 at once," commanded Sir Edward, speaking of Sir Bobby, Sharon the Knightess, Cynthia the Huntress, and himself.
"And we'll carry the message to Daviona Sector 136 to intrigue the Empress Anoivad to take action against the Sovereigness Shanika Amva," said Baroness Darlene, indicating Sir Harold, Sir Ronald, Sir Frankie, and herself.
"And I'll make sure that my sister in Carolyn Sector 5 gets the message to compel the Valerian Empress of Devonia Sector 136,
said Mikalop as everyone stood to go their separate ways.
"And as you have all agreed by your own spoken words, let it be done," said the king. "For what is a kingdom's decision without the wisdom of wisdomers or the lance of knights? As the question of our actual existence lives long, what is a kingdom without a king? Though many have challenged our rule, we have prevailed many times. So let this mission be no different."